I actually also come from a military background. My father retired a general from the Army, and I've grown interested. There's actually quite a few poems in I Was the Jukebox that kind of deal with themes of militarized culture, wartime culture. And the next poem I'm going to read deals with the reality that after the first-hand experience of every generation with war, there's a subsequent generation that compartmentalizes it in some way in terms of the media. It makes the movie of it, the book of it, the television series of it, and this poem kind of deals with what gets lost in that translation. It's called Cast of Thousands, and it first appeared in a magazine called The Believer. Cast of Thousands. When they make a movie of this war, I am minute 97. Soot tears applied with a Q-tip, the one whose roof collapses on her head before her pie is done. Look how I look at you, the apple and the apple's knife still rolled into my skirt, eyes wide as gin. The blast, then ash. The director cried, "Cut!" "More ash," he said, and they bombed me again. My death is the clip they send to the Academy. Later they will kill me in Spanish, then French. I will die on mute, on airplanes, row after row of my tiny touch-screened dying. My love, I have joined the cast of thousands, me and the plucky urchin, me and the scared infantryman, me and the woman whose laminated beauty sells euros on every Greek storefront. I'm a useful anyone who advances the story, then drops away. In your dream, 6 months from now, I'll make my cameo as the customer with an unfocused smile, offering a 20 as the register begins to shake and smolder under your hands. The coins will rise and spit silver into the air. The coins will rise and spit silver into the air. They buried my village, a house at a time, unable to sort a body holding from a body held. And in minute 96, you can see me raise my arms as if to keep the sky from falling. This poem is called Plenty. The goats were swollen with wheat, bass overflowing the banks, too many potatoes, monstrous zucchini. The sheep, hustling across Wyoming shoulder to shoulder, became a great blanket fevering the Midwest. News crews from Florida showed children paddling helplessly among the oranges, looking for a place to stand. We called to the scientists, but they were busy watching as petri dishes grew into petri pools, petri lakes. They had no cure for the multiplicative. We called the firemen, but they were up in trees, tossing down cat after cat after cat. We called to Jesus, and he came in a set of 1,000, robed and sandaled. Every city got a Jesus, and ours stood on the street corner like Santa Claus, waving his tin bell. You have been blessed by plenty, he told us. We begged for less. We wanted one slice left in the pan, one measure left in the song. We wanted the ramen, the penny jar, coupons cut and saved. Impoverish us, we prayed, our voices forming a grateful din, so faithful none could decipher it. So I just recently, in the past few months, have been able to pretty much write full time, which is such a gift. But before that, I did a lot of strange jobs to do what I actually wanted to do. And so whenever I read this poem, I just dedicate it, and I think New York has a lot of these people. I dedicate it to you if you've ever woken up on that morning and you get to work and you're like, how the hell did I end up doing this for a living? What on earth got me here? And it's called vocation. For 6 months, I dealt baccarat in a casino. For 6 months, I played Brahms in a mall. For 6 months, I arranged museum dioramas. My hands were too small for the Paleolithic, and when they reassigned me to lichens, I quit. I typed 91 words per minute, all of them help. Yes, I speak Dewey Decimal. I speak Russian, Latin, a smattering of Tlingit. I can balance 7 dinner plates on my arm. All I want to do is sit on a veranda while a hard rain falls around me. I'll file your 1099s. I'll make love to strangers of your choice. I'll do whatever you want as long as I can do it on that veranda. If it calls you, it's your calling, right? Once I asked a broker what he loved about his job, and he said, making a killing. Once I asked a serial killer what made him get up in the morning, and he said, the people. I'm going to read just a couple more poems. I wanted to read the title poem. It's called You Were You, and as Paul alluded, it is written in the voice of a jukebox, specifically a somewhat lovelorn jukebox. And jukeboxes are creatures of devotion. They have a set of songs, but they're given and never get to sing the song of their own. So, You Were You. I dreamt we were in your favorite bar. You were you, I was the jukebox. I played Sam Cooke for you, but you didn't look over once. I wanted to dance. I wanted a scotch. I wanted you to take your hand off of her. You were wearing your best smile and the shirt that makes your eyes green. If you had asked, I'd have told you her hair looked like plastic. But then my mouth was plastic. I weighed 300 pounds. I glittered like 1972. A man tried to seduce me with his quarters, but I could hear his truck outside, still running. I was loyal to you. I played Aretha, Marvin, the Reverend Al, and you kissed her all the way out the door. Later, I tried to make my own music, humming one circuit against the other, running the needle up and down. The bubbles in my blood were singing, and in the morning, they came to repair me. I'm going to finish with a poem that will appear in the Best American Poetry 2010 later this fall. And it concerns a very peculiar creature called the capybara, which, if you're not familiar with it, you will often see it in the zoo in the same area as the elephants and the giraffes and the hippos. It's an unusual creature in that it's a mammal. It's considered a land mammal, but it spends a lot of time in the water. You'll see it submerged up to its chin level. And if that makes no sense to you, picture the Princess Bride, picture the fire swamp, picture the rodents of unusual size, and you have a slightly more evil-tempered version of a capybara. So they're really kind of amazing creatures, and one obviously very bored morning, I started researching all of the strange facts about them and all of the odd roles that they've played in history and Catholicism, among other things, and I realized something needed to be done. Some poem needed to be written about these creatures. And the poem is called Unit of Measure, because really, if you want to, you can measure anything in this world by anything else, bread boxes or otherwise. And if you can measure size by a bread box, you can measure things by a capybara. Thank you again. Unit of measure. All all can be measured by the standard of the capybara. Everyone is lesser than or greater than the capybara. Everything is taller or shorter than the capybara. Everything is mistaken for a Brazilian dance craze more or less often than the capybara. Everyone eats greater or fewer watermelons than the capybara. Everyone eats more or less bark. Everyone barks more than or less than the capybara, who also whistles, clicks, grunts, and emits what is known as his alarm squeal. Everyone is more or less alarmed than a capybara, who, because his back legs are longer than his front legs, feels like he is going downhill at all times. Everyone is more or less a master of grasses than the capybara, or going by the scientific name more or less hydrochirus, or going by the Greek translation more or less water hog. Everyone is more or less of a fish than the capybara, defined as the outermost realm of fishdom by the 16th century Catholic Church. Everyone, therefore, is eaten more or less often for Lent than the capybara. Shredded, spiced, and served over plantains, everything tastes more or less like pork than the capybara. And before you decide that you are greater than or lesser than the capybara, consider that while the Brazilian capybara breeds only once a year, the Venezuelan variety mates continuously. Consider the last time you mated continuously. Consider the year of your childhood when you had exactly as many teeth as the capybara, 20, and all yours fell out and all his kept growing. Consider how his skin stretches in only one direction. Consider that now you are stretchier than the capybara. Except that you have foolishly distributed your eyes, ears, and nostrils all over your face, and except that now you will never be able to sleep underwater. Except that the fish will never gather to your capybara body, offering their soft, finned love. One of us, they say, one of us, but they will not say it to you. Thanks again. Have a good evening. Thanks to our hosts and the other poets.